guess in the later 70s, I graduated high school in '77, and like I probably saw in the early videos, my high school project was my dream car, 1967 fastback Mustang. As time went on, I got a job working for the railroad, started making a little bit of money. We had been hearing about a '34 Ford Coupe right outside of town. This man had this car, and everybody in the world had tried to buy it. Well, my Uncle Spud knew him, and he said, let's go look at this '34 Ford. So we'd go outside of town, and there the car was. It was all to pieces. I mean, I'm still a young cat, I'm 19 years old, probably 20, and I still liked the car, and I said, I want this car. And I had my Mustang going, and I was ready for another project, and I want this '34 Ford. Nobody gonna get this Ford. Everybody in town had been trying to buy this '34 Ford, so I didn't really think much more about it. And I was out working my Mustang as usual, and my Uncle Spud and this guy pulls up, the guy with the '34 Ford. And I just kind of jokingly said, I said, you ready to let me have that '34 Ford? He said, no, nobody gonna get that car, but I tell you what, dude, I will trade you that car for this Mustang. And my uncle just stood there and said, can't nobody get this car. You crazy if you don't trade this old Mustang for that '34 Ford. So we made a deal. We was gonna do the trade. I had to finish getting the transmission in the Mustang. Got the transmission swapped out and got my Mustang running, and it was ready to do the day of the swap, and we went out to look at the '34 Ford, and he come back and looked at my Mustang, and I just backed up, and I kind of felt bad about it. I said, I can't get rid of this Mustang. I just can't do it. So I backed out on the deal. And this was in 1979. And still got my Mustang. My uncle said, you crazy for not trading out my old Mustang for that '34 Ford. I said, maybe so, but it's my Mustang, and I built it in high school, and I want it. So time goes on. I get old. This was in '79. Well, I guess in probably 2019, it was in 2019, 40 years later. Some friend of mine's come by the shop and said, man, we found this guy, our next door neighbor, he's got this old jalopy. It'd probably make a good rat rod or something behind his house. And they got to describing this car to me. I said, that's got to be that '34 Ford, because nobody else in the world would even know what it was. And it was just in the weeds. So we went out and go look at the car. It was up a real steep incline and a little gravel drive, and it washed out and had ruts in it, and you had to take a running start to get up the road in a pickup truck. And I could see it behind the house. I could see the roof of it. I said, it just all growed up. I could see just a very little bit of it, where the man had dogs tied out everywhere. So I said, that really set me on fire when I seen part of this car. I said, I'm pretty sure that's that car. I said, but it's unbelievable. 40 years later, this car still survived. And so we went back several more times. We got to taking treats to the dogs, feeding them bones or whatever, trying to make friends with the dogs. They was all out on chains. We finally got in touch with the man, and he decided he was going to turn loose of the car. He remembered me 40 years ago with my Mustang, and I told him I still had it. He said, you still got that old car? I said, yes, sir, I still do. And he said, well, come back here and look at it. It ain't much to it. So we went back, and we stomped the briars and the weeds down, and it was raining, and true enough, it was that same old car. years later. So we made the deal, made the trade, and I got some friends of mine. We brought a tractor with a bucket on it and picked it up, and I don't know any other way we would have got it out of the woods it was in. Most of the parts, the fenders and the hood and running boards and all was in a little carport shed, and it just had years and years of junk piled on top of it. But we dug in there and most of the day, and we got most of this car drug out of there, or everything it was to it. Like I say, we fooled around and I got my hands on this car, and we brought it up to the shop and then got to doing a little research on it. And turns out the car was built in the early 60s, had an Oldsmobile motor, and it was built out of New Orleans, come out of New Orleans, had an Oldsmobile motor in it, and it was drag raced in the earlier 60s, 63, 64, I think.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really hope you enjoyed that story. I mean, it's really cool to me. 40 years, that car came full circle. Dad backed out on the deal to trade it for his Mustang. If you haven't seen the story of the Mustang, that's the episode before this one, so be sure to go check it out. But if you have, you kind of know what went into that car and everything. So he backed out on the deal, and then 40 years later, we run across it again and actually have the opportunity to pick it up. And be sure to stay tuned for the next episode, and we're going to go through how we found and did the detective work to find out the really awesome drag racing history on this car. I actually talked to the guy that built it in 1961, and it gets even more crazy. After 40 years, it all comes full circle. We're in the nostalgia drag racing. This stuff is incredibly interesting to me. I love finding old cars and history on old cars. And sure enough, this car has a pretty cool drag racing history and old pictures and all that good stuff. So be sure to stay tuned on that next episode coming in a few days. I know you guys will enjoy it. And thank you guys for tuning in. Again, be sure to subscribe, like the video, comment if you have any questions or anything. And if you guys want to support the channel, you can go nitrounion.com, pick up t-shirts and decals, all that good stuff. And we really appreciate you guys' support, and really love seeing you guys enjoy the stories and everything. So we're definitely going to be doing more stories, because Dad's got a lot of stories. Every single car he's ever had has a cool story around it. So we'll be sure to tell those. And we're going to be back on project cars and have more project car stuff rolling out very soon too. So be sure to stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next one.